All right. Hello, and thank you for coming to this discussion about the American Jobs Plan and disaster resiliency. And how will the American Jobs Plan affect vulnerable communities in Florida? I'm joined today with my co-worker, David Bonilla. They're in East Central Florida with For Our Future Florida. And my great friend from Broward down here in South Florida with me, Lori Woodward Garcia from Broward for Progress. Hello, how are you guys doing today?
Doing awesome. Glad to be here.
Very good. Also, very happy to be with you.
Awesome. Been a long weekend in South Florida for sure. So we'll just jump into who we are. And so I am the regional director for South Florida for Our Future Florida. I'm proud to be with you, and I'll let David jump in to give a brief description of where he's from, who he is.
Yeah, I'm David Binney. I'm the regional director with East Central Florida, going from Orange County all the way out to the Space Coast. Really excited to be here, and For Our Future does a lot of advocacy around issues that impact Florida families. So glad to be here with some progressive partners here like Lori, and wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself too.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be joining Juan and David today. So my name is Lori Woodward Garcia with Broward for Progress. And Broward for Progress is a grassroots organization committed to championing progressive values. We started in Broward, but we have a footprint pretty much all over the state. And also engaging people and mobilizing them to get out the vote, to go vote, and vote for leaders that represent their values. So that is my awesome responsibility, is to connect with community members and empower them. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion today, because this is a really needed issue that is confronting our community here in Florida. So I'm really excited to hear what we'll be discussing today.
Awesome. Yeah, Lori's real deal. I'm witness to that. I see her in the field all the time. So when you guys have time, please go and check out Broward for Progress, doing great things in our community. So let's jump into the discussion now. Go ahead and flip it over, David. Before we jump into it, I want to take a little bit of time. I'm sure everybody here wants to take a little bit of time. And we want to talk to an email, Rubio and Scott. We can't let Rubio and Scott be a roadblock to disaster relief and greenleaf jobs. We saw their inactivity through a lot of their administration, especially even with the American Rescue Plan. I mean, just think of that. If it was up to them, what would relief look like right now at this moment? So we want to let them know that Floridians want the American Jobs Plan. Make your voice heard. Email Rubio and Scott today. The link is in the comments. So check it out. Give it a look really quick, and then we'll flip on over and jump in to the discussion here.
Just one side note, if I may, I'm also adding in a link to, we have a send Marco Rubio a pink slip. So if you're so inclined, you just remind him of his hypocrisy.
Love it.
Really love it. Yeah. That's gonna kind of, I guess I'll lead us in here. Obviously, Florida is practically one big coastal state. I mean, at any given point, anyone, even people in Central Florida, are only like 40 miles or less from the coast. And so, hurricane season, when it comes, it does make a huge impact. And Florida is especially vulnerable to climate disaster. We're more than 30% of county renters live in storm vulnerable housing. And just, nearly 1 million people are at risk of being left homeless in Miami-Dade County if a major hurricane had a direct hit. And so that obviously would mean that lots of poor brown and black communities would just be devastated if that were the case.
Right. Let's be honest. I mean, even a small storm that hits us. I mean, if you're from here, you live here. There's power outages for a couple of days. We're just talking about just regular residential, citizens. So we're not even talking about businesses that have to pick up and run. There's definitely suffering in a storm, regardless of a Cat 1 or a Cat 5 here in Florida.
And I can certainly attest to that. I remember way back when I was waitressing, I couldn't get off till the night before the storm. So, right. Some people have to work and they can't afford the opportunity to buy all the groceries and take time off of work and do the preparations. And especially here in South Florida, we know how many communities are left out, and we need to really challenge our senators to do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'll go ahead and say, like, yeah, here, this is the next portion on how disaster resiliency is a racial justice issue, which just wanted to kind of open up, like, a lot of things should be viewed as racial justice issues, but especially, you know, knowing how climate change is going to impact different communities, like, just open up, like, what are some of the ways that we see that this is, you know, principally a racial justice issue?
A racial justice and an environmental justice issue. You see the lower income housing people. They're usually around flood zones. When the relief comes, you usually have relief being into the center, like you said, when we're talking about the coastal areas that need it immediately. Black and brown communities who are the thriving, body in South Florida who need it immediately. There are frontline workers usually. There are cafeteria workers, the people who feed us. And so, we usually see this devastating those communities that don't have the opportunities that the higher end communities do have.
Yeah, I think it's really, when we look at overall, like the planning, like the last few years, I think that we've come to realize that it's really important that we do preparation for all of South Florida, right? Or all of Florida, not just privileged parts of Florida. It's really critical that when we're thinking of relief or preparations, we have to prepare for all types of abilities and community members. And it's just extremely reckless on our leaders' part to kind of assume that everybody can make these preparations or after a storm mitigate the damage that's been done. I mean, it's just really a disservice to our community. And one side note, our organization does a lot of work around immigration. We
Awesome.
fought down at Homestead for the children down there. We're weekly out in front of ICE Miramar. We've done visitations to the detainees at Chrome. And we see a lot of folks that have had to move because of climate. Right? We see a lot of the effects, and we should do better, right? In this country, we should be doing better. We shouldn't make people have to relocate because we weren't prepared. We are able to take care of our community. We have the resources. We just need to fight for them and reallocate and make sure that we take care of our community members.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, we need to make sure that our local leadership is on board. We have a president that is proven here in the American Jobs Plan that's ready to, give relief to these issues, but we have to have our local leaders on board.
Yeah.
Go ahead and jump into the other one. So that does give us great leadway. Bold action is needed. That means that ensuring our homes and communities are prepared to take a statewide and national effort. President Biden's plan increases resilience in the most essential services, our roads, our rail, and other transportation assets. And here's how. Laura, you can jump on in on this one.
Yeah.
I'll talk forever.
So disaster resiliency from 2010 to 20, Florida experienced 22 extreme weather events. And I know, because we've all been here, gone through the drill. It's cost our state up to $100 billion in damages, and the president's plan will improve the resiliency of our infrastructure, support communities' recovery from disaster, and save taxpayer money. And I think we had an earlier conversation. Our organization is completely supportive of this jobs plan, but we want to take it a step further with the Thrive agenda, the Thrive Act. And the reason being is, if we look out, like right now, the American Jobs Plan is probably about a third of what is really being estimated for a true reformation, if you will. So the goal of Thrive, which takes it a little bit further, a little more progressive, a little more money, is to really get a lot of things done. For example, it'll invest $1 trillion a year instead of, I think right now the American Jobs Plan is about 2 trillion total, 2.5 trillion. It's going to invest in economic investment into community and justice, pollution, joblessness. It's just got a lot of really good things. And that would be something that if you're out there wondering, how can I help my community? Obviously, make those calls, hold our senators accountable, advocate for jobs reform, but maybe also look at something like the Thrive Agenda, which is a longer term. Also, the beauty of the Thrive Agenda is it really invests a lot in solar. We need something. We're the sunshine state. So we really need to invest in our sunshine. We've got to be getting away from fossil fuels and, becoming to these oil companies and really investing in good union paying jobs for our state. So I would just advocate for that. But definitely we have to do better. And we can do it.
We can. Absolutely. Absolutely. I say that all the time. But again, if we don't have support from the local government, any of these progressive, measurements taken by the president, by Congress, by the House will not be passed if we do not have support from the people we need support from. And again, we live here. We're humans. This is not a left agenda. This is not a right agenda. It comes down to right and wrong. Imagine just asking to be civil injustice, or to imagine to ask for environmental justice. These are not, these are not commodities that we're asking for. These are inherited things that we need to always have, all of us, no matter where we come, what walk we come from, race or creed. There's certain things that we are entitled to. Clean air, clean environment. When things do hit the fan, quick response, just response. And these are just simple things we're asking for. So we can go ahead and just go into the next slide here.
Sure.
Jump right in.
Yeah, I'll talk briefly about the critical infrastructure. Of course, people of color, low-income people, and are far more likely to live in areas that are vulnerable to flooding and other climate change-related events. The resource plan, the AJP increases resilience in essential services, including electric grid, food systems, urban infrastructure, community health, and other transportation assets. And I think wanted to also touch on and cover, of course, the fact that, when we're talking about allocations of resources and things like that, and we're wanting to note the local and also the importance of the state government. I mean, we have, budgets that come down and they can approve or reject federal funds. And I think we've seen that from our very own governor right now, that he just says, no, thanks. Yes, this would improve the lives of millions of people. Yes, this would really make sure that we're well poised for the future. But I couldn't even put myself in the thinking where you would just say no, just no, we're going to turn away that money. And so as much as that is having a state governor in place that is willing to be a bridge to implementing positive changes is really going to make all the difference here.
Absolutely.
I just would interject also that when we think of infrastructure, and I think that more and more of us are paying attention to this issue, it's more than just roads and bridges, right? Infrastructure, we've heard this, recently, it's our nanny, or it's our caregivers, it's our frontline workers, but there's also an infrastructure when we think of South Florida, particularly with resiliency, right? We need to make sure that our community is fortified and strong. And that's why it's critical that we make these type of investments and that we hold our leaders accountable. So shame on Ron DeSantis for rejecting the funding coming in for healthcare for our seniors. Shame on some of our lawmakers for taking from affordable housing and denying our community that resiliency. We need that. We are spending too much in the state. Every day I open up an article, like probably all of you, and read how much more we're paying than the rest of the nation in housing and our energy costs. That is money that we could be putting into education, into environmental issues, things like that. And it's been too much of a burden. And it's really a leadership issue. And I believe that we, the citizens, we need to fight hard to change what is happening, because if we don't fight back on this, it's going to be a bigger piece of the pie. And I'll just share this, and so this just floored me this morning. I saw this. The top 25 people in America, they paid in taxes last year $1.9 billion. 25 people. But 143 billion of us paid 14 million. So we've just paid so much more on so many. So it's really, we have to really fight hard to change this injustice, right? And change the direction. The funding is there. We just can't keep it's not fair to the everyday working person. We just can't afford this anymore. So we have to fight hard for these changes. We have to really understand that infrastructure is more than just roads and bridges, right? It's our community, and we have to strengthen our community, and we have to make sure our leaders are fighting for these things for our community.
We sure do. And that leads into what we'll talk about at near the end. And there's people who are going to listen to us and be like, how do we get involved and how do we make a change? There's so many ways that you can. We'll be jumping into some of those ways, but be not dismayed. There are people on the ground, things in play right now with things like the American Jobs Plan and the Thrive Act that can help out right now if we get them enacted. So let's go to the next slide. Affordable and safe housing. Affordable and safe housing has consistently been defunded the past 20 years through the Florida legislature. Sadowski Trust Fund, originally intended for public housing projects, will be reallocated permanently to the resiliency projects and stormwater wastewater projects. There's a shortage of over 300,044 affordable homes for lower income Floridians. So, I mean, I live in South Florida. I live here in Miami. More so, I live in the southern part of Miami, Florida, so that we homestead in Florida City. When you look here, even the difference between affordable housing and go over into homestead to the more affluent side, it's a total different, just an environmental change that you see from street to street. Absolutely. It's like a border right there. So you can definitely see that. So just looking at how things are and where they can be and compared to other parts in the state, David, what are you looking like over there in East Central Florida?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of a big discussion point in some of the community meetings that we have here, is talking about how there's the end of the moratorium on evictions is coming at the end of the month. And a lot of people that are in precarious situations due to employment are really looking at the reality of losing their homes here in a relatively short period of time, and a lot of that is really due to several things. Obviously, lack of employment, lack of good opportunities, and then on top of that, the fact that the rent is just too high, right? And that is a core aspect of the difficulty in finding affordable housing. And then also maintaining your place in that housing is just really challenging for lots of people, especially in Central Florida and in this area. And obviously, I think that just becomes inclusive to all sorts of parts of Florida when we see that housing prices are just always pressed upwards, very unfortunately, and that the essential workers are often left out to dry because of that.
That's right. And I'm hearing that Florida is increasing our population. A lot of people are coming to Florida from, after COVID. So there's just a big migration to this state. So what shortage we have is going to grow. It's going to become more of a challenge on our state, more of a burden. We have to address this issue, and it's shameful on our legislators to rob Peter to pay Paul. We need to take care of our community. We need to actually grow that affordable housing fund, not pull away from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'll transition us over. Obviously, energy burden is a core part that we want to highlight here. the percentage is higher in Florida than it is nationwide. The average electricity burden for the state of Florida is 3.9% compared to the national average of a little over 2.5%. And we know that Black BIPOC communities, renters, older people, those residing in affordable multifamily buildings, that's just a disproportionately high burden. And so it's important that we see updates to our housing units, something that, if fully implemented, if implemented by, the standards that we have gotten impressed from the administration, that it would bring weatherization, energy infrastructure, renewable energy efficiency to a lot of housing units to make them more livable and also to make them efficient, and so that would see a lower burden on households across the state, and then of course across the country. Something we're really hopeful for.
Right. I mean, we're the Sunshine State. I mean, we produce the best thinkers. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling why we don't have as many solar panels as we should have. The big corporations, basically monopolizing the energy, the energy grid. So, I mean, this kind of addresses these issues as well. So, very good.
Yeah, I would say one thing about this issue, and I think this sort of an underlying is we see a lot of seniors that have to make a hard choice, or impacted communities have to make a choice between cooling, right? And Florida is so hot, and extra items like medicine or buying groceries. I mean, because it can get pricey, right? Or let's just say your air conditioner goes out. I mean, oh Lord, our air conditioner broke a few years ago, and we didn't have the thousands of dollars hanging in our pocket to replace it. So we had to wait a few months until we could, earn some extra income to pay for that. That's an expensive burden on many families. And we were very blessed to be able to do that. But I just think that we have to do better, and we can do better. I believe that we have the ability. I believe in my fellow man. Unfortunately, we have some cantankerous leaders, if you will, some stubborn leaders, and we need to push them to remember that, we belong to one another, right? I believe that in humanity, we all belong to one another, and we are for each other. And I think our leaders have kind of forgotten that they're just for them. They're thinking only for themselves, and we need to remind them that they work for us.
For sure.
Yeah. Very constant reminder for our present senators, no doubt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and put us on to the next slide. Obviously, community investments are going to be necessary and something we want to see implemented. If fully implemented, we'll see investment in vulnerable communities through a range of programs that include FEMA, Building Resilient Infrastructure, the Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Program Grant. Have some new initiatives at the Department of Transportation, bipartisan tax credit to provide incentives to low and middle income families and to small businesses to invest in disaster resilience, and some investments in nature-based infrastructure. And we have so much beautiful nature in Florida that we need to really, of course, take advantage of, and also recognize and know that it needs to be protected. So just really the importance of different investments into these programs is essential, and something that we constantly need to grassroots advocate for. Wanted to see if there's any other community investments that are worth highlighting.
No, I mean, what jumps out to me is just the incredible amount of money that was needed to rebuild the Keys. I mean, like one stop away from Key Largo, but they're back. And just imagine what would happen if some of these things, what could happen even more with the passing of the American Jobs Plan. But what would have happened if the non-complacency or the complacency of our government, just trends to be true. So, I mean, like, again, the investments are needed, and we need to press for them. Absolutely. So,
Yeah, I would also say that, in addition to having this conversation about building infrastructure and investments in our communities, the one thing I will add about the Thrive Act and why I'm really excited about this is that part of that community investment. Thrive will enact a board that is represented by the impacted communities. So this spending that we're advocating for in Thrive, it puts some of that back into impacted communities, unions, indigenous nations, up to $1 trillion a year for them to invest. Like, we see what's happening in Washington, sometimes in Tallahassee. It doesn't always trickle down to the folks that really need it or the people that are allocating the resources in the community. So the great thing about Thrive is it will put some of that funding into those frontline communities and organizations that are doing the work. So that is something that I think from a community investment, we definitely need to invest in many of the things that are on this list, but just keep in mind that Thrive will take it a step further, invest in putting it into those frontline organizations that are doing the work around the country.
For sure.
Definitely. Well, yeah, definitely hope. And whatever we have coming up is going to be in like an omnibus sort of plan, and like our most progressive legislators influencing to have those essential aspects included in it as something we have to advocate for, and of course really push for, to show that this is where the grassroots support is for these for those allocations. Where are we at now? We're at the take action part.
Because you don't get what you don't ask for, right?
Yeah.
Right. My favorite part, take action. Tell Rubio and Scott to support the American Jobs Plan. We'll leave this up. I love it. There's a QR on screen. You can take the time to scan it if you want to. There you go. If you want to jump onto our Facebook group, Organizing the Victory South Florida, that's another way you can go ahead and sign on to that petition. David has a petition as well in his group of Organizing the Victory of East Central Florida. Lori, I'm sure you have some petitions and some things going on that you'd like to talk about of creating grassroots lobby actions within the state or within South Florida.
Oh, yeah. We're always follow us at browardforprogress.org. We will definitely be putting more actions out, particularly with our senators. We're fighting for many issues, and the belief is our senators hold power, and we, the people, need to remind them that they work for us. So we need them to take action with regards to Florida on jobs, climate, democracy, all those wonderful things. But, the last thing I will say is I hear a lot of times people say it's not worth it. They don't listen to us. And I always tell them, that is my job as a mom, is to feed, clothe, shelter, love, and educate my child. But I also have a job as an American mom, and that's to fight for her democracy, to fight for her to have a better tomorrow. So regardless of what the senators may or may not do, I think sometimes people make that as an excuse not to take action. It's still our responsibility as community members to take action. Now, obviously, it would be nice if all of us in Florida were pushing hard. Maybe they get the message. But please take action, and don't think that you're powerless, because we have tremendous power. And I remind people, listen, things have never been easy. It's always a struggle, but we can do this. We have the people power. We have the ability to nudge them, and we need to take that. We cannot become complacent or apathetic or be willing to make excuses. This is the time now that we are, again, we belong to one another. We take care of one another. And we have to fight for that. And so our senators are critical in this. So every time you get a petition, sign it. Every time you get a letter, take a moment. It does make a difference. Please. It absolutely makes a difference. It does make a difference. I can tell you, as a little grassroots organizer, I've seen the power, and we can do this, but we need more people believing and having faith, and we can do this. And just look at all the wonderful things we can get out of these bills. This is amazing. This would be incredible for our state. Jobs, justice, climate. Like, we could do this. So
right. Right. Like I said, it's things that we shouldn't have to imagine.
No.
It's crazy to hear those things. I mean, I just wanted to, just off the back end of that, say, like, David, we're doing letter to the editor training. We're doing phone banks. We're doing text banks. But also for the people who aren't into that, we just want to, even these town hall discussions, we want to find out what does work. And in order to do that, we do need everybody involved, as much help as we can get. And I say, I told one of my volunteers earlier, don't do it as a job. Do it on your relaxed time, when you're even on the phone, when you're texting, when you're watching TV. Relax and just get involved any way you can. And I'm so happy to have you, Lori, as a voice in South Florida. David
Thank
there
you.
in East Florida. You guys are so awesome.
I just want to say one other thing, if I can, before we close. I hear a lot of people also say, "Oh, I don't have enough time," or "I'm exhausted," or "It's stressful." And I just say,
Right.
Jump in with even 5 minutes a day. Take whatever little bit of time you can. I mean, honestly, there's so many great causes and organizations, yours, ours, and many out here in Florida. Just a little bit, but also you have to love the people, right? I mean, it can be very stressful, all the shenanigans that are coming down from Tallahassee and DC. Absolutely, it could be stressful. But I think you could also look at it as an opportunity to help our community, an opportunity to help our fellow man. And there's a lot of joy in that, a lot of joy. So I think it's perspective also, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't do it," politics or whatever. No, there's a lot of good that happens in this space when we work hard, when we do the work, as you're suggesting. So to anybody out there is like rolling their eyes, I can tell you that I wasn't looking to become an activist. I found a community where I could make a difference. And I'm not stepping away because I want to help. And I'm excited with the people like you, both of you, David and Juan, that I meet every day. I am not worried about the future because I look around and see hope and energy. The other side may paint us a horrible picture, but I see great potential, and I'm excited to be on the front lines with both of you.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Definitely. I said the first time I met you, I said, that is my twin right there. I told David that. Now for progress, for sure. There's so many groups as well that rock, but you are awesome sauce to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll just mention in that obviously we were going to invite everyone to stay involved with both of our groups. And of course, if you're in East Central Florida, if you're in anywhere from Orange County to Seminole to Volusia, you can check us out at the East Central Florida. If you're in the South Florida group, Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade. There's a community for you. So if you are watching this and appreciating what you're hearing and hopefully excited to get involved, we're here for it. Definitely want to mention some events. Of course, Orlando areas, we have a really wide road of activities to stay in. Just this Saturday, we'll be doing a food pantry event in the community for people in East Orlando. And then, of course, like Juan was mentioning, we do, issue advocacy in the form of letters to the editor, make our voices heard one way or the other. Definitely lots of different activities coming up. It's a month of action for vaccinations. So we want to see us help get over the pandemic fully by getting to 70% or higher vaccination rate in the state. So be part of that effort. Be in contact with friends, share out information, and with that, definitely loved being here with both of you. Thank you so much for your activism, Lori, and really glad to be in the same fight together.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And so we are going to head out, and I want to thank all the viewers for coming and stopping by. We'll be on again. I'm sure you'll see all of our lovely faces. But before we go, I want to leave us with our last thoughts. If we're not alive, we cannot progressively move. And so there's been a lot of, violence within the southern in South Florida. And so we definitely want to say our condolences to all the families and all the people hurt in the senseless violence. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep on giving hugs with your heart open and your eyes closed. Be safe out there, and we'll see you soon.